Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of our guests today, including Farhan standing by, brought to you by Able Auctions, our title sponsor, and ableauctions.ca. Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox. Normally, I will read something that disagrees with me, but Don from Cloverdale, bang on here. Donnie, you're so right. Leave the names of the trophies alone. It's history. The kids of today would sell their grandparents and everything else down the river. Oh. Go, Donnie. Poor Dave Henderson.
Yeah. See, you usually do read one that goes against you. Yeah. The only thing is, it's all messages that go against you, except for this one.
No, not today.
I think this is either made up or a relative of yours.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, when it comes to Conn Smythe, we've had several submissions into the Delaney's inbox regarding this. Like, if somebody like that was, as part of his history, racist, did racist things, said racist things, then my argument goes
of course. We're talking...
Or other transgressions.
Yeah, we're talking without that knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
Joined now, and boy, I bet you're glad about this, Farhan Lalji, TSN. How are you, sir?
Good. I'm always amused by what you guys bring me in with, the conversation before you say, how are you? Yeah, it's always good.
Well, the NBA is changing the names of its trophies, updating the names, more modern, acknowledging great players of not that long ago, Farhan. Should the NHL do the same?
I don't think so. I think that sometimes the name of an award is part of its lure, right? Like, people know what the Hart is. They know what the Ross is. They know, like they know what the Lady Byng is. We may have never seen some of these people play, but I think it's part of the lure of the award. I don't know that there's a real need to make those changes, to be honest. I'm not sure there is in the NBA either. Obviously, when you want to name the finals MVP after Michael Jordan, like he's the best player in the history of the game, it does make sense to have his name associated with something, much like it makes sense to have Wayne Gretzky's name associated with something, and not just something, but something of substance, not something created. But for the most part, I tend to like tradition. I tend to like hearing what it is and just knowing what it is.
Farhan, that's good by me. You can leave us now. We're happy with this. You agreed with me. We're okay. I'm just kidding. Farhan, can you understand what Bo Horvat, and I asked the same question of Jeff Patterson, but can you understand what Bo Horvat and the Canucks were thinking releasing that statement yesterday?
I'm not convinced it was Bo's idea. I think that it was probably somebody at the club thinking that this was a good idea to try to get in front of. And it's not like that was going to prevent us from asking some questions, right? We didn't ask him directly about the negotiations, but it's not like we would have anyway, right? I mean, that's generally not what you do in these things. You wait for Rick to talk to an agent and get the information out that way. But like generally, we're not going to go to a player and say, hey, did you turn down an offer, right? Like that's not normally the process of what we do. We ask for context and, emotions and context around the situation. And we did that yesterday with Bo, right? And, he explained why the need for a statement, but at the end of the day, Bo's a big boy. He can answer the questions. Boy, everybody on that team should be so distracted as Bo Horvat is right now, given the performance he's putting up in the final year of his contract. So, it's fine. It's, he said that his parents and wife and everybody, they've had the odd text, but overall they're pretty good, and that's important to him. So, unfortunate that it had to get out there publicly, but that's what Rick gets paid big bucks to do now, guys.
Yes.
I wish Nathan Rourke's agent was as nice as some of my hockey friends are.
Nathan's agent's great. He's just great to me.
Oh, okay. I'll send him the tape of this video.
Absolutely.
What's the latest on Nathan Rourke and his NFL tryouts?
Well, 2 more tryouts this week. From what I heard, he spun it really, really well in Jacksonville. So he had Indianapolis and Jacksonville. This week, Indianapolis also impressed by him. And then next week, there's 2 more starting on the 19th, Minnesota and Arizona in whatever order. And then I think there will probably be 1 more set of these, but I don't know that it's going to go too deep. We talked to Rick Campbell and Neil McAvoy just now as they announced their contract extensions, and they said they don't think it's going to take too long before they hear about what the final decisions are going to be. And I think pretty quickly here, their camp's going to start taking some offers and trying to get a real sense of what the interest level is from some of these teams. And there are a real wide variety of fits in terms of what's best for him. But I think there's going to be interest in the player. There's no doubt. And more than just interest. I mean signing interest with a good opportunity.
Yeah. Okay, so you just mentioned Rick Campbell and Neil McAvoy contract extensions, coach and GM for the BC Lions. Your thoughts on that move?
I think it's good. I think they've earned it. And when you look at what happened in Winnipeg, a couple years into Mike O'Shea and Rick Walters' tenure, they were so close. Kyle Walters' tenure, they were so close to being blown out of there, especially the head coach. And they decided to stay patient. And it's rare in this league that you're allowed to stay patient. Quite frankly, in the NFL, it's rare as well. I mean, guys get less than a 3-year cycle before they get blown out in most cases. Let's see. I mean, Nathaniel Hackett might not even get a year, right? So when you look at what BC did a year ago, they took a real chance by going really, really young. And this year, they wind up having 11 second-year starters, like players that are in their second year in the CFL that are starting, and we're all really important players, whereas last year they were raw rookies and they had to live with those growing pains. So I think it's a good thing for the organization to have some stability with these guys going forward, and it's been earned, right? I mean, Rick has brought a calming presence to this team. I think that he's a good leader. I think the players believe in him. And in terms of Neil, this is a guy that's been incredibly loyal to this organization. I asked him about it going back to '96 when he was a volunteer, fresh out of junior football. And then Adam Rita decides to pay him. And then all of a sudden he kind of works his way up and learns from some pretty good people, including Wally Bono, and turned down opportunities to interview elsewhere just because he wanted to be here. So good to see him get rewarded as well.
Farhan, Lions released the CFL released its schedule yesterday. Lions released theirs, of course, in line with that, their 2023 schedule. Home opener, June 17th, regular season versus Edmonton. 4 p.m. Saturday starts at home. Are you a fan of the early kickoffs?
I am. Yeah, I think it's more tailored to families, right? I mean, you still don't want a young kid going to bed at midnight, right, after a 10 o'clock game by the time you finally get home. It lets people from other parts of the province get in and out the same day, and we saw some success around that during the playoff game, right, when there were a lot of people from the island and the interior that came in. So this lends itself to that. There was a time when, in hockey, when we always have to play the Canuck game against the Leafs at 4 o'clock on a Saturday. And I used to hate that it happened, but it was more because of why it happened, right? Because we don't like Toronto. We're all the same here on this call. So we hate why it happens. But when you step back from that and look at it, it's awesome that it does happen. I want my evening if I want to go out to dinner after a game, and I don't want it to have to be late. And 4 o'clock on a weekend is just fine, thank you. Whereas on a Thursday or Friday, you can't do that with a work schedule. And I think the same here. I have no problem with Saturday and Sunday games at 4 o'clock. I think it's totally a good thing, and I think the attendance is going to get a bit of an uptick as a result.
Farhan, I can't thank you enough for this interview and for backing me.
Have I ever agreed with you this much on one show?
I don't think so.
No, never.
Oh, hey, might be the first time.
I do have a question in our.
I don't have my mug.
Yeah,
I have a question in our Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox from Peter Puck. Did Tennessee ever work out Nathan Rourke?
Not yet. No, I know they were one of the teams that was interested in him. Mind you, 24 teams were interested in him, but no. And here's the thing with Nathan: when you're looking for the right spot, don't just look at teams that have bad quarterback situations, because you know why?
Right. Yeah.
Those teams are all going to draft a guy, right? And so if you look at Tennessee, for example, I'm not a big fan of Malik Willis, but they drafted him in the early rounds. I think it was a 3rd-round pick last year in the draft. They're going to give him some runway. And you don't want to be Nathan Rourke going into that situation with a team that just drafted a guy high or a team that's about to draft a player high at that position. That's just because they're bad now, like Indianapolis. They're going to draft the guy, right? You want to go to a team that isn't going to draft a guy. They've got to continue to invest in what they have, but maybe they're not quite sure because he hasn't lived up to it for a few years now, and you can bring in a guy with good value behind him that all of a sudden could potentially take the job.
What a great point. Great point, and you agree with me. We'll have you back next week. Thanks, Farhan. Appreciate it.
Hey, next week I'm going to do this from Mexico. I'll do it.
No, forget it. You want to rub it in. No, forget it.
Mexico?
Ryan will give you a call. Okay?
All right, see you guys.
Okay, thanks, Farhan.